All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about IOTA, and if you've been in crypto for a while, you've definitely heard the name. It's one of the most unique and frankly ambitious projects out there. Why? Because it promises something that sounds almost impossible, a crypto future with absolutely zero transaction fees. And it plans to do this with a technology that isn't really a blockchain at all. So how on earth does that work? And that's really the big question, isn't it? A crypto network with no fees and no miners. Wait a second. That kind of breaks everything we thought we knew. If there are no fees, who pays for security? If there are no miners, who processes the transactions? To figure this out, we've really got to pop the hood and see what's going on inside.
And it all starts with IOTA's core technology. This is the secret sauce, the whole idea behind its revolutionary vision. It's a total reimagining of what a distributed ledger is supposed to be.
So instead of a blockchain, IOTA uses something called the Tangle. Now forget that image of a single, straight chain of blocks, one after the other. The Tangle is more like a tangled web. Here's how it works. When you want to send a transaction, your device does a tiny little bit of work to approve two previous transactions that are already on the network. This creates this constantly growing interconnected web, which technically is called a directed acyclic graph, or just DAG for short. This is where you see the massive difference. On a normal blockchain, you pay a miner or a validator a fee to approve your transaction and put it in a block. With the Tangle, the network users themselves approve each other's transactions. So get this, the very act of using the network is what secures the network. It's a pretty wild concept, and that right there is how IOTA gets to that magic promise of feeless transactions. And this design, at least on paper, leads to some incredible advantages. No fees. That's perfect for tiny payments between machines, the so-called Internet of Things. And here's the kicker. In theory, the more people using the network, the faster and more secure it gets. It's the complete opposite of most blockchains that get slow and expensive when they get busy. It was supposed to solve scalability. But, and there's always a but, that beautiful theory crashed right into a very hard reality. It turns out that securing a brand new type of network, especially when it's young and doesn't have a ton of users, is an absolutely massive challenge. So, to keep the network safe from attacks in its early days, the IOTA Foundation ran a centralized server called the Coordinator. You can think of it like training wheels for the network. It would periodically issue these special transactions that helped everyone agree on what was true, basically preventing anyone from trying to cheat the system while it was still small and vulnerable. Now, you can probably see the giant contradiction here. A project that's all about decentralization was relying on a central point of failure. And for a lot of people in the crypto world, this was just a total deal breaker. It became the #1 criticism thrown at IOTA for years and years. So, the mission became clear: get rid of the Coordinator. The community even gave it a cool name, Coordicide. But as you can see, this has been a long, long road. This isn't just about flicking a switch. It's about performing a complete heart transplant on the network's consensus mechanism. And yeah, it's a process that is still very much in progress today. Okay, so while all this incredibly complex tech work was happening, the crypto world didn't stand still. The entire landscape changed. And to keep up, IOTA realized it had to change too. It needed to pivot its strategy. You see, the original vision was super focused on the Internet of Things, just a network for machines to send data and value back and forth without fees. But today, that vision is way bigger. IOTA is now trying to position itself as a major player for all of Web3, going toe-to-toe with the household names. So how are they doing this? Well, the IoT vision is still there, it's the foundation. But now, they've built things like the Shimmer Network, which is basically a playground to test out new, cutting-edge features. And the big one is smart contracts. Because let's be honest, you absolutely need smart contracts if you want to compete in the world of DeFi and NFTs. This is all about building a real ecosystem around things like digital identity and tokenizing real-world stuff. And all of that brings us to where we are right now. IOTA has this incredibly unique tech, this amazing core idea, but it's also facing a brutal market and has a whole history of challenges it's still trying to outrun. Let's break it down. The big advantage for IOTA is, and always has been, that feeless model. It's super attractive for businesses and enterprise pilots. But on the other side of the coin, they're late to the smart contract party. The competition is fierce, and they have to prove they can go from cool-sounding pilot programs to actual large-scale adoption that people use every day. And look, we have to be real about the criticisms that have stuck to this project. There's a history of technical bumps in the road, some big changes in direction that have left people scratching their heads, and of course, the major delays on the biggest promise of all, getting rid of the coordinator. These are the doubts that the project still needs to put to rest to win over the broader market.
So it really all boils down to this one single question. You can have the most elegant, genius technology in the world, but if nobody actually uses it, what's the point? The challenge for IOTA is turning all that incredible engineering into real applications, built by real users, that bring real volume to the network. That's the only thing that matters in the end. And that leaves us right here. IOTA is making a massive bet. It's betting that its radical, feeless design is just better, and that eventually the world will catch on. But we all know the market often just picks what's simple, what's familiar, and what already works. So the question for all of us is, will this bold vision for a feeless future actually win out? Or will IOTA go down in history as a fascinating experiment that was just overshadowed by its competition?